Hi everybody! Today I'm talking about this book, Atop the Windmill I Could See Forever, by Maria Dolores Gonzalez. The stories in this book paint a complete picture of history and place and self, and the idea that querencia is not just created by the person who acknowledges it, but in the family stories and cultural histories that take root around that person before they are even born. First, I just want to share a little bit about the author. Maria Dolores Gonzalez is an author, former educator, and fierce advocate for bilingual education in the United States. She was born in Roy, New Mexico, a place I've never heard of before reading this book. Her family moved around between New Mexico and Guadalajara, an experience she writes about in her book, before finally settling in the big ABQ in 1958. Inspired by her experiences as a child, she received a bachelor's degree in Spanish and Chicano Studies from Adams State University, a master's degree in Spanish and Latin American literature from the University of New Mexico, and a PhD in Spanish sociolinguistics from the same institution. And just two other really cool things about her story. She helped create the Bilingual Strategies Language Institute, which offers Spanish immersion classes in New Mexico. And in 2016, she began a writing group called Nuestras Voces Chicanas that encourages women from northern New Mexico and southern Colorado to share their stories as historically marginalized people. The emphasis on culture, language, and place in her academic and professional career is perfectly reflected in this book. Atop the Windmill I Could See Forever is a series of vignettes detailing the themes of family, customs, history, and language, and also the greater themes of difference, isolation, and discrimination. In the preface, Gonzalez tells that the stories here are made from memories that are not always necessarily hers. There's this amazing line at the end of one of her first longer vignettes that completely drives home why this kind of storytelling is important to her. Talking about her family's bittersweet departure from Guadalajara, Gonzalez says, "We all came back to the States with different recollections. My parents' and my sister's memories became my memories." And what's cool is she perfectly adheres to this fact throughout all of the writing. Many of the stories are written as her in conversation with a family member, or her simply listening to them relate their own memories. In this, she recalls how her family members laid out their stories, the emotions that they felt when they were conveying them, and at the same time Gonzalez interjects her own reactions to the story, both at the time she was listening and then at the time she was writing. And with that, this book is such a beautifully reflective piece of writing. And she has so many good lines in it, but I want to share one that is just the perfect representation of this as the result of deep reflection. Gonzalez says, "We had only lived in Guadalajara for a year, but as time went on, the anecdotes sprouted memories like wildflowers in my consciousness. The history I would never read about in the history books at school was planted. The seeds of identity were buried deep in my soul, and the rhythm of Spanish nurtured them until they were harvested many years later." Another beautiful aspect of this book is the way Gonzalez approaches writing throughout different languages. The entire book is a mixture of English, Spanish, and Spanglish, and there's no translations between those. If it's written in Spanish, it stays in Spanish. But what's even cooler, words from all of these languages are written as they're pronounced, not necessarily correctly. For instance, Gonzalez says stuff like, "Bueno, mijita, vamos adentro a hacer tortillas para la cena," or "Hurry up, it's gonna get ya." Gonzalez maintains that she writes like this to honor those storytellers in her life. This emphasis on writing language, how it's actually used, reinforces the idea that we constantly see in Chicano studies, that academic correctness is often less important for understanding than cultural perspective is. And it's also a great reminder that the actual written words are just a representation of the feelings that they convey. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on this work, and I've really wanted to understand why she chose the title. In the titular vignette, Gonzalez tackles the issue of isolation, both the physical isolation of Los Llanos and the feeling of isolation as an invisible child born between the youngest and the most outgoing. In her isolation, a young Gonzalez would climb to the top of the windmill on her property and lay out on the planks, simply watching the landscape for hours. There she dreamt about all the places she would one day go to, and ponder her own place in the empty yet beautiful world around her. And in a way, this experience is indicative of the deep reflection of self, place, history, and querencia that would eventually culminate in this book. To write memoir or biography is to interrogate the self, to examine to the fullest one's place in the larger scheme of things like family or history or the place you live. También it's about allowing yourself to dream about what these understandings mean, to not always take a story at face value, but to follow at its threads to reveal the larger tapestry that it weaves. And something that Gonzalez drives home over and over in this book is that this is something that doesn't just happen overnight. Rather, as Gonzalez says, it is buried deep and nurtured by the circumstances of our life before they can be fruitfully harvested. So as people who are working on writing memoir and biography, I think that's a really good takeaway, and it's something I hope that we all give ourselves time to do. So, in conclusion, Gonzalez takes an approach of deep reflection towards not only her own memories, but the stories and places and histories that build the world around her. The result is a beautifully authentic, creative, non-fiction memoir that not only reveals her own experiences, but that honors those storytellers in her own life. And it's a great read. Thank you.